My name is Jamie Hall, H-A-L-L.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Where do you work?
I'm currently employed at the West Columbia Police Department as an evidence custodian
How long have you been there?
since April of 2022.
Will you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of this jury about Jamie Hall, Mr. Muckster, your background, as personal background as you want to. I'll leave that to you, but specifically your education and background that led you to law enforcement, please.
Yes, sir. I grew up in the Midlands area of South Carolina. Upon graduating high school, I attended Clemson University and obtained my bachelor's of science degree in wildlife and fisheries biology. After that, I spent a couple years traveling and working some various jobs. I moved back to the area in 2013 and began looking to start a career, and ended up at SLED in 2015 as an administrative assistant in the trace evidence department in the forensic services laboratory. I was an administrative assistant until 2017 when I became an evidence technician, a forensic technician too, in the trace evidence lab.
When did you graduate Clemson?
In 2010.
Okay. So after you traveled some, you started working in SLED in what year?
In 2015.
Okay. What was your job then?
I was an administrative assistant.
And what does that mean?
For the trace evidence department, that involved answering phone calls, filing documents, pretty much normal administrative duties.
Did you further your education or your experiences while you were at SLED in that field?
No, sir. When I became the technician in 2017, that's when I began the in-house training for that career.
Okay. Tell us about the in-house training when you became the forensic technician.
Yeah, so that training involved oral and practical examinations in-house under the supervision of an analyst, in which I learned how to properly handle the evidence and process the evidence for potential GSR. I also oversaw some testimonies of some analysts to be familiar with courtroom policies as well. And I took some outside training from Hook College in Chicago as well.
Hook College in Chicago?
Hook, yes, sir.
And what was that training?
It was training regarding the scanning electron microscope, which is used for GSR analysis.
That's the acronym is SEM for that?
The SEM, yes, sir.
Okay. And when did you leave SLED?
In March of 2022.
Okay. And do you mind, you're working where now?
At the West Columbia Police Department.
West Columbia Police Department, and you are there what?
Evidence custodian.
Okay. Now, back in June of 2021, you were a forensic technician for SLED.
Yes, sir.
You're special agent, forensic technician?
No, sir. I was not considered an agent or considered law enforcement. I was just the forensic technician too.
Okay. So then, in June of 2021, what was your job on a day-to-day basis?
My primary role in the trace evidence department as a forensic technician was to prepare evidence for GSR analysis. That includes GSR kits as well as inanimate objects that came in for potential GSR testing.
And we're going to have Ms. Fletcher testify right after you, but what is a GSR kit?
A GSR kit is an envelope that goes out to officers or investigators so that they can collect on scene from a potential suspect's hands. And it involves, it has all the items they need: gloves so that they can make sure they're not contaminating the subject's hand. And then the little vials that contain the GSR particle lifts with a double-sided adhesive that's used to dab across their hands to pick up any potential GSR.
So those are kind of done in the field, if you will?
Yes, sir.
After a local law enforcement agency uses one of these kits, what happens to it?
When they decide that they need it analyzed, they submit it to the laboratory, and then when it comes into the laboratory, I prepare it for analysis. So that involves me making sure it's been properly sealed and initialed, handled properly, the correct kit. There are a variety of kits out there. Our lab has particular kits that we accept, so I confirm that it is an acceptable kit. And I also confirmed that it was collected within the allowed time frame. On a living person, we're touching things all the time and possibly contaminating or removing the GSR. So we do have a 6-hour time limit on kits collected from individuals.
So if a kit comes into SLED or your possession, do you check to see if it was collected during that 6-hour time period?
Yes, sir, I do.
And how do you do that?
We have what we call an information worksheet included in each GSR kit that the officer fills out that includes the time or the estimated time that the shooting occurred, as well as the time that the kit was collected.
I'm going to show you what is marked States 13. Can you tell if you were involved with States 13? And if you can, how can you tell?
Yes, sir. This has the unique SLED lab number and item number, and it also has my initials on the day that I processed it.
6821 JEH.
Yes, sir.
What's the E stand for?
Elizabeth.
Now, court, would you open this, please? Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Did you examine States 13?
Yes, sir. Again, it also has my date and initials from the day that I processed it.
Your initials again, JEH?
Yes, sir.
6821?
Yes, sir.
And when you're processing this, tell us again, what are you looking to see, whether it's what's done or not, or just tell us what you
Okay. So for a GSR kit, I start by using what we call an inventory worksheet. And on that worksheet, what I'm doing is confirming the manufacturer of the kit as well as the lot number for the kit. They have lot numbers for quality control purposes to make sure they're not contaminated before they're used for collection. I'm confirming who the kit was collected from, that 6-hour time frame. And during that time, I also label the individual particle lifts inside with the unique lab number, item number, date and initials for control purposes.
And I believe a sheet has been entered where Murdaugh collected this GSR kit from the defendant. Are you aware of that?
Are you referring to the gunshot residue analysis information sheet?
That's exactly what I'm referring to.
Yes, sir. That's what I would have used to confirm the 6-hour time frame.
Okay. And it's in evidence already. I'm not sure exactly what number, but do you have that copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And this has already, if you'll trust me, this has already been entered into evidence. Did you use this in examining, determining whether this was collected properly?
Yes, sir, I did. It also has my date and initials on it.
So using the form, show these ladies and gentlemen what you did. How you came up and...
There's a section here at the bottom. So we have the subject's name from whom it was collected.
And who is that?
This one says Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
Okay.
As well as the time and date the shooting occurred, 6/7/21, 10 p.m.
And that's information that's gathered at the scene from somebody, right?
Yes, sir. Okay. This particular kit says that it was filled out by collecting officer Brian Vandor. Sorry if I messed that up.
That's good enough. Okay.
And then at the bottom, the collecting officer has also signed and dated that it was collected on 6/7/21 at 11:15 p.m.
And would that 11:15 fit in the time period where you're saying, okay, well, I can pass this on to be analyzed?
Yes, sir. It's an hour and 15 minutes.
And so, not taking away from what's your job at all, but one of your jobs is to make sure that's done correctly?
Yes, sir.
And then do you inspect the vials, if you will, to make
Yes,
sure?
sir. I make sure that there's nothing out of the ordinary with them. Occasionally, you would have a little crack in the vial, but I've never had anything damaged.
So in your opinion, these were collected properly and you passed them on for analysis?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
Now, were there, let me ask you this much. Local agencies that you examine items for potential evidence, in this case gunshot residue, how do they get to the lab?
Typically, the officers from the local agency submit them through our evidence control department. And once they're submitted that way, that's when they're assigned their unique lab number and item numbers for each piece of evidence. And then based on the type of analysis that that agency requested, we would get notice that it needs to be processed. And so I would pick it up from evidence control and bring it upstairs to the trace lab to begin the processing.
And is all that documented from local agency to y'all and where it goes from there?
I can't attest to what the outside agencies do. I believe it probably varies agency to agency. But once it's been logged into our system downstairs, it is tracked throughout the laboratory for every hand that touches it.
That's kind of what we refer to as a chain, correct?
Yes, sir. It's
Chain of
referred to as the
evidence.
chain of custody.
Chain of custody. Now, did you have some other items of potential evidence in this case that you examined?
Yes, sir. I had several other items.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's marked states 418. Ask me if you can just identify this. That's all, and does it relate to your testimony?
Well, I can no longer see my initials, but I did process items that were in container D, and this is marked with container D for this case number. Yes, sir.
And would you open it up then to see if you
Yes.
can further find your mark with the court's permission? Okay. Mark 21, excuse me, it's your lab number 21 contained in states 418 at this point for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I recognize it as the lab item number 20.
And what is lab item number 20?
It was a brown paper bag containing one pair of green cargo shorts.
And also contained in 418, lab number 21. Can you tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, sir. It's lab number, or item number for this case, 19, which was a brown paper bag containing one white T-shirt.
Okay. Now, Jim. Your Honor, all 418 without objection.
They're admitted.
I'm going to show you what time purpose. thank you, Your Honor, sorry. I'm gonna ask you, please, ma'am, this is a correct question. Look at 423, 424, and 425. Do you recognize these, and do they relate to what you're talking about right now?
Yes, sir. These are PGSR collection worksheets from clothing that I generate during my process of collecting from inanimate objects.
Okay. Inanimate objects.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's start with the shirt, 423.
Yes,
What's
sir.
in evidence? Tell these folks what you did with the shirt.
So anytime we're processing clothing or an inanimate object in the lab, we start by making sure everything's been thoroughly cleaned, and we also place down parchment paper to just as an extra check and balance to make sure there's nothing contaminating the evidence. We also place what we call a clothing blank out onto the table where we are processing. That's just another one of those double-sided adhesive stubs, and it's left open and exposed to the environment to make sure there's no contamination in the environment. That's how I start all of my clothing. Then I confirm that everything is adequately sealed and documented, and I open my items and lay them out on the parchment paper. I photograph items, and then I do label those items for identification later if needed. And then I will sample the clothing item closest, in the areas that would be closest to the discharge of the firearm. So in this case, we're talking about a t-shirt. So I will sample the right chest and sleeve area together and the left chest and left sleeve together. So if you want to draw a line down your midline for right and left, and then we typically go down to just below the chest area.
And is that what you do with every shirt?
Yes, sir. If it's a long sleeve garment, I would typically use a separate particle lift for the chest area and the arms, just because the adhesive doesn't last quite as long.
And if you said this, I apologize, I'm tired. Why are you doing those areas?
It's closest to the discharge of a firearm.
Potential discharge, so that's where you test it.
Yes, sir.
Well, looking at the shirt, look 418, the shirt that's contained in here. Which one's the shirt?
19.
19?
Yes, sir.
Before you get to doing the particle lists, what's the first thing you do?
I confirm what the item is and that it's properly sealed and initialed.
Do you open it?
After I clean, I open it. Yes, sir.
And do you make observations of items when you first open it?
Yes, sir. Anything that seems out of the ordinary for any item is documented on the worksheet in the comments section.
And you have a comment section. That's where you put your thoughts, right?
Yes, sir. Anything that may, again, be out of the ordinary or affect the analysis later.
And just to go back, you go down a little bit. Yep. So this is right sleeve, right chest, left sleeve, left chest. Hanes beefy shirt, right?
I don't have any objection to introducing 423 into evidence. I don't think it's in evidence yet, but no objection.
We offered it a little while ago without objection. 423, 24, 25.
I have no objection to those three exhibits going in.
I thought I'd said that. If I didn't, I apologize. Is this a Hanes beefy t-shirt?
Yes, sir, it was.
And item 19.1, what are your comments underneath there?
Small reddish brown stains observed. Shirt had an odor of laundry detergent.
What do you mean by that, an odor of laundry detergent?
It just smelled freshly laundered, which is not typical of the lab. Typically, clothing smells slightly musky when we get it.
And you examined this shirt when?
On June 8th of 2021.
Now, you didn't know, did you have any knowledge about this case whatsoever?
I just knew that we had asked to make it a priority in the lab.
And you attempted to collect particle lists from that shirt?
I did collect particle lists from the shirt, yes, sir.
Next, states 425. Sorry, we're out of order here. This is also your clothing worksheet?
Can I see the top of that sheet? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, sir.
And what was this that you examined?
This was the worksheet we generated when we collected from a seatbelt that was collected from a 2021 Chevy Suburban, South Carolina, tag CZL420.
And I think we have it marked for ID only. Do you recognize this? Strike that, I'm sorry. The seatbelt states 100. Thank you to everybody. States 100. Can you look at this and see if you haven't examined that before? Does it relate to your testimony?
Yes, sir. This was SLED item number 142, and it also has my date and initials on it as well.
All right, what did you do with states 100?
At the direction of the analyst, Megan Fletcher, I collected samples from various areas on the seatbelt.
Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, how did you determine where you were going to collect samples?
Since this was not our typical item, I collected from areas in which Megan instructed me to collect.
Which was where?
We collected from the buckle, 3 different areas of the belt, and the latch plate.
Can you show the jury where you collected?
Yeah. So this, I believe, was what we call the latch plate.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm misspeaking on that, but, and then the buckle was, oh gosh, this area here, and we did the top and bottom of it. And the 3 sections were just, we measured the length for each section, did a section, rolled more out, and did the next section.
And how are you actually doing it with the particle lifts? How are you collecting them?
So, as stated before, the particle lifts have a double-sided adhesive on it, and you just repeatedly dab that across the garment or the item that you're collecting until it loses its adhesive abilities.
100, we'd offer, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
Did it? Thank you. And looking back on the sheet, this noted here, that's where you went through and did your inventory sheet, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is to document you did what you did, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you also have an occasion to examine the pants in this case? It's already, I believe, in evidence.
I did collect from some cargo shorts.
And those were also included on what I just took down off the OMO, but can you tell the folks where you collected or tried to collect lifts off the cargo shorts and why you collected in those areas?
Yes, sir. For any type of pants or shorts, we always collect from the right groin and the left groin area. Again, that's the area that's closest to the discharge of a firearm.
And that's standard, that's what you do?
That is standard practice.
Now, did you,
Is that correct, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that minute?
would you mind opening up for, first of all, do you know whether or not you examined a pair of shoes in this case?
I did, and these are the shoes, SLED item number 21.
Okay. Would you please open that for the ladies and gentlemen?
gloves.
Sure. Yes, ma'am. Before you cutting that, do you see JEH on here?
Yes, sir, I do. On 6/8/21, I signed my initials.
So what is all that right there?
I believe it's yard debris.
For permission to dump this right here, or can I get a trash can?
Get a trash can. Get a trash can.
These are states 419 in without objection. Can you show these to the jury?
Sir.
Show the jury what you, I'll hold them, show the jury what you,
So with shoes, when we collect from them, we're going to collect again to the area that would be closest to the discharge of the firearm, so the front of the shoe. So in this case, I would do the area where the laces would typically be and the front toe. Depending on how well the adhesive continues, it will depend on how far back I go, but I start with the toe and then work my area down the sides.
is this the condition they were when you saw them on June 8th, 2021?
There was more grassy type material on them when I had them.
Okay. And what I just dumped in the trash can with the court's permission and in here, did you indicate on your comment section
Yes.
whether or not yard debris was present?
Yes, sir. I commented that shoes were wet with yard debris present.
Wet with yard debris.
Yes, sir.
Did you, on June 8th now, go back in your mind, when you saw these, in addition to wet and yard debris, did you make any other notes in the comment section about those shoes?
I did not.
Do you remember, did you see anything that looked like blood?
I did not make any note of that. No, sir.
With your naked eye?
No, sir.
Top or bottom?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you have any other items that you examined that were presented to you for examination either by yourself or with Megan Fletcher?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
It was SLED item number 173. And it was, we described it as one blue rain jacket / poncho.
Okay. And was this the same, no. When did you examine the poncho?
I believe we began on October 5th, 2021.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the clothes, the shirt, the pants, and the shoes were on June 8th of 2021?
Let me check my notes. Yes, sir, that's correct. June 8th of 2021.
And I didn't ask you this, and I apologize. When did you examine the belt, the seat belt?
The seatbelt was examined on September 1st, 2021.
And again, the specific date for the raincoat was what?
October 5th, 2021.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen, take us to the lab now. How did you examine that garment, the rain jacket?
This was also not our typical garment, and I believe there was some information provided from investigations. So everything I did in this case was at the direct, or in this, for this particular item, was at the direct supervision of Megan Fletcher. She essentially told me where she would like me to collect, and she documented everything on the note sheet while I physically collected the particle list.
that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
They're admitted.
And Your Honor, 421 are the particle list from the rain jacket, and I believe there's no objection except the objection they made previously. No additional objection, 421.
They're admitted.
So let me go back in time real quick. Are these the particle lifts you took from the seatbelt? 427?
Yes, sir, my initials are also on each individual stub.
And that's sort of like the officer has in the scene. You're now doing it in the lab, taking particle lifts, correct?
Correct.
And particle lists from 420 lists from 19, 20, and 21, which I think are the pants, the shirt, and the shoes. Were these the particle lists from 420 that you actually took?
Yes, sir.
Again, in the twos.
Yes, sir.
And your initials is on.
Yes, sir.
Now, 421, you said it was a little different, unusual. How did you take the particle lists on this rain jacket?
I believe everything was considered in Megan's custody while I was doing the collection, and then it was transferred directly to my custody when I carbon coated the particle lifts. That's just a process where a thin layer of carbon is added. It allows the analyst to get better images on the instrument. It doesn't do anything to add or remove GSR. It just simply adds a very thin layer of carbon. So it was in my custody at that time, but prior to that, it was in Megan's custody.
Okay. Show you what's marked as 226. Is this the rain jacket that you were describing?
If I can check the bottom cuff. Yes, sir. The date and my initials are here in the bottom cuff.
So you looked at this rain jacket,
Yes, sir, I did.
and Megan Fletcher was with you.
Yes, sir.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen, how did you process? Where did you attempt to get particle lifts?
Basically, the entire garment. We marked it off in different sections, again, where Megan advised me to collect from, and I repeatedly dabbed the particle lift across each section until it lost adhesive.
These particle lifts?
Yes, sir.
You dabbed each of one of these?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are these little things on here? These tape or the...
I'm not sure what those are.
Now, you did the outside of this garment.
Correct.
Did you do anything else to it?
We also sampled the inside of this garment as well.
So you actually turned it inside out and took samples from the inside.
That's correct.
Okay. Megan Fletcher was with you.
Yes, sir.
What about the hood? Did you test it or take samples from the outside of the hood?
Yes, sir, we did.
Did you take samples from the inside of the hood?
Yes, sir, we did.
Sorry, yeah. Beg the court's indulgence. gloves here now, but when you're examining all of these items, do you wear gloves?
Yes, sir.
Does Megan Fletcher, did she wear gloves?
Yes, sir.
Why?
To make sure we're not contaminating it, as well as to protect ourselves from anything that may be on the garment.
And as far as the, to not contaminate it, you don't want to put anything of you on that garment.
Correct. It's standard practice for us to wear a lab coat, gloves, and if it's going to be processed for DNA later, we also wear a mask.
And is that in a controlled environment when you attempt to get these particles?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge, that's all.
Private defense.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. It's 423.
Oh, you're there, I'm sorry, yeah.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hall.
Good afternoon.
You said if you're going to do DNA testing, you wear a mask.
Yes, sir.
Did you wear a mask?
Yes, sir, I did.
So, to your knowledge, were some of these items processed for DNA after the GSR processing?
It was my understanding that they had the potential for DNA analysis. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's just talk about how you go about sampling for GSR. And you talked about the shirt, and you said you would do the chest and sleeve on either side. How does that work? Do you lay the shirt out on a table?
Yes, sir. So as I stated, the table is thoroughly cleaned, and then we place down parchment paper as well, sterile parchment paper, and lay the garment out on that so that we can access all the areas.
And for the shirt here, I think it's item 19, did you just check on the two areas at the top on the chest side?
Yes,
or-
sir. Unless we're given information from the investigative team or from an officer who submitted it that there's potentially a reason to test somewhere else, we only test the chest and sleeve area because that's the area that would be closest to the discharge of a firearm.
And that's what you're looking for is, do you call it gunshot residue, is that right?
Yes, sir. It's microscopic, so you cannot see it. Therefore, we're testing the areas where we would expect to find it.
And you would expect to find gunshot residue on the shoulders of a person who had recently shot a gun, I would take it.
Yes, sir.
That's what you're looking for.
That's what we're trying to find out, yes.
Right. And then you did some GSR testing of a seatbelt assembly and buckle and whatnot, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you did GSR testing of this rain jacket here, right?
Correct.
And shirt, shorts, shoes, and Officer Varnado, I think's his name, you received a sample from him, and you just checked to be sure it was off.
I didn't
Murdoch's
physically
hands?
receive it from him, but he was the collecting officer listed on the sheet, yes, sir.
Okay. And so he would have taken the sample, or whoever did it would have taken it from Mr. Murdaugh, and that would be item number 18, I believe.
SLED item 18, yes, sir.
And those are the samples taken from Mr. Murdaugh's hands, I take it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you can get gunshot residue on you by just simply picking up a firearm, can you not?
Those questions would be better asked of the analyst. I can only testify to factually what I did.
Okay. And the analyst here is Ms. Fletcher?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me ask you to take a look at your worksheet, which is in evidence 423. And do you have that up there?
Yes, sir.
You know, I think I'd rather put it on the Elmo so we can, do you have it in?
I have my copy, yes, sir.
Okay, great. So All right, yeah, go to the top. Okay, let's stop right there. Agent Hall, it says that this was a brand Hanes beefy T-shirt,
Yes, sir.
and then particle lifts, right sleeve, right chest, left sleeve, left chest, correct?
Correct.
And it says description, paper bag containing one white T-shirt. Is that right?
That's correct.
And Doug, if you'll go up, down a little bit more, okay. And then there it says, comment, small reddish brown stains observed. Shirt had odor of laundry detergent. That's what it says, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what those small reddish brown stains looked like?
They looked like small reddish brown stains on the shirt.
Were they tested?
I have no knowledge of what was done after I handled the object.
Okay. Now below here it says sealed brown paper bag containing one pair of green shorts. Is that just an entry for another item?
Yes, sir, that's item number 20. The sheet is designed where we can put 2 items on one sheet.
Okay. So when you received the shirt, item 19, was it in its own separate bag?
In this case, it was, yes, sir. That's why I made the note that that individual item contained its own brown paper bag, while the description says brown paper bag containing.
Okay. And the shorts, those are green cargo shorts, and again, you lifted, it says right groin, left groin.
Correct.
And it's just is it on the inside of the pants leg, or?
Well, it's on the outside of the garment, down to, a reasonable distance, depending on the type of fabric, could depend on how much adhesive it has, depending on how large the garment is from the person. A small garment versus a 3XL is completely different. It depends on how far I can go down on the garment.
And to do this, you take a sticky something or another, and
it's a double-sided adhesive on an aluminum stub within those little vials. The bottom has a holder for that, and then we grip it by the bottom and repeatedly dab it across the garment.
Until it loses its stickiness.
Correct.
And then, do you do one vial per area or multiple vials?
It's one vial per area listed. If for some reason I needed to use an extra vial or an additional vial, that would have had its own listing on the worksheet.
Okay. Now, I tell you, you don't know what the results of your lifting were, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
That you would then finish your work and send it up the chain?
Yes, sir. All the items are either given directly to the analyst or they're securely stored in the trace evidence lab until the analyst takes possession of them.
Okay. And this blue rain jacket, you said you put carbon on it or something?
Yes, sir. It's a standard practice for anything collected from an inanimate object. We typically get a lot of debris, sand, dirt, or fibers, typically from clothing, and that can cause it to be a little bit more difficult on the instrument for them to get pictures of the particles. So the carbon just allows them to get a better picture of the a better picture of the particles when they do their analysis, but it does not do anything to add or remove GSR.
So you put the carbon down before you use your sticky thing?
No, sir, that process happens after the collection.
Okay.
So it goes into a small device, and there's little rods of carbon that are rubbed against each other inside of the instrument to put the layer of carbon onto it.
I see. But you're not putting carbon on the garment?
No, sir.
Got it. Okay. One second, Your Honor. Ms. Hall, are you involved in any way with DNA processing?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay. And so you don't know whether any of the items were processed for DNA?
I have no knowledge of where the items went after they left my department.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You may step down.